Hello, I'm Dango Rose. Welcome to the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening. The Mountaineer brings you the latest news of the Peak to Peak region, in print, online, through our podcast, social media, and special publications. Now, listen in to the latest news of the area with our local journalists.
Welcome back to the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening. I'm Hardt DeVitalis.
And I'm Cynthia Davis. Now, for this week's news.
This episode is sponsored by Brightwood Music, Hardt's Backhoe, Log Cabin Grooming, Nederland Feed and Pet, The Very Nice Brewing Company, and of course, the Mountaineer newspaper.
For our lead story today, we spoke to Trina Faatz about the discovery of fentanyl mixed with other street drugs like Xanax and oxycodone by Boulder Public Health. Though autopsies are pending, 2 teenagers in Boulder County recently overdosed. The cause is suspected to be the powerful synthetic opioid pain reliever.
My name is Trina Faatz, and I am the facilitator for the Boulder County Community Services Substance Use Advisory Group, which was previously known as the Opioid Advisory Group under Boulder County Public Health. And I also work with an organization called Reach Out for Change, which provides support and classes for free to parents in the Boulder County community related to substance use and misuse with their children of any age. So the Parent Engagement Network and myself were able to do amazing presentations in some of the high schools every year around opioid dangers and opioid misuse and how to work with your child and also work with a risky situation or behavior. And during those presentations, we also discussed Narcan and talked about that. And because those were in the high schools and we knew that there were sometimes incidences of opioids in street drugs and being used by students, we encouraged the school district to carry Narcan in all the schools by staff rather than just the part-time officers that are at the schools. Some of the schools have been really interested in doing that. Others we didn't get responses from, but we finally realized that we needed to go to the superintendent of the school district, and the district has just announced that all schools will be carrying Narcan on site by staff. So we're very excited to learn of this decision. The teachers that we know that do carry Narcan, and I don't know if there are many, have done this voluntarily because they're concerned and they carry it as a precaution. The Attorney General asked every single person in this country when this epidemic was getting a lot of attention a year ago to carry Narcan. Narcan is the best preventative to resuscitating to an overdose occurring. And so I think that a lot of adults, including teachers who are concerned about this, are carrying Narcan with them at all times now. It does cost them something unless they have Medicaid or unless someone signs up to be a program participant of the Boulder County Works program. And that is stationed in almost every city in Boulder County. Right now with COVID, some of the locations are quiet at the moment. And the Works is an anonymous program, so anyone of any age can register to be a participant, and then they have access to free Narcan at any time that they would go and pick up from one of our locations.
So these teachers are literally arming themselves with what is known as the overdose reversal drug, commonly branded as Narcan. Naloxone is the key ingredient here that prevents opioid receptors in the body from working, effectively stopping the overdose reaction. There's been a huge push to get this drug into the hands of police and paramedics, and even those with access to the homeless population.
So we know that A lot of kids are grieving right now, and we cannot confirm that any overdoses are due to fentanyl. We have seen an increase in overdoses and certainly resuscitated and reversed overdoses, and that's really great news. But we have no confirmation whether these are due to the fentanyl that we're seeing circulating more. There has been fentanyl in street drugs for quite a while, so this is not a brand new concern, but it seems like maybe they were more widespread recently. One of the supports for high school students and middle school students who are in a grieving process right now is through the Grief Support Network, and they are offering a grief support program, which includes sharing, journaling, mindfulness exercises, yoga or movement, and therapeutic support. That will begin next week. Parents or students should go to griefsupportnet.org and find more information out or pre-register. We also have a great program through the Natural Highs program of Boulder County run by Avani Dilger, who is through Naropa and also a licensed addiction counselor and motivational interviewer. Avani has had Natural Highs, which is a peer mentor-run program for the last 15 years in Boulder County. And Avani will also be having Narcan available at her Tuesday 4 to 6 p.m. afternoon groups, which are being held on Arapahoe and I believe First Street at the September school location. And Narcan will be distributed there as often as she can get free Narcan for students.
However, if someone experiences an overdose, you should always call 911, even after administering.
You can also go to the website bouldercountynarcan.org for more information about Narcan. It's important to know, and every person should be aware, that if you administer Narcan because you think there's an overdose occurring, you should call 911. You must call 911. If someone is overdosing, sometimes 1 or 2 doses of Narcan will not bring them back, especially if fentanyl is involved. So you want to have backup, and you want to make sure that that person doesn't overdose again. So you could revive someone with Narcan, and 15 minutes later or an hour later, they could go back into a non-responsive state and overdose and die. So you really want to have medical supervision with CPR and more. The other thing that people need to know is the Good Samaritan Law of Colorado. That law protects anyone from persecution or criminal charges by calling 911 to save a life. Now that means you could be under the influence as well as the person who is overdosed, and there could be drugs or alcohol at the scene. Whether you're a minor or not, you will not be charged with a crime. But if you leave that scene and you leave a person who's in distress, you could very well be charged with a crime. We also want folks to call 911 and stay with that person because we know it would be a terrible thing to have to live with the guilt of leaving someone behind. So we urge you to remember the Good Samaritan Law. All the police in Boulder County are aware of it and have promised to adhere to it and to use your Narcan as administered, but call 911.
Faatz provided us with resources for those looking to help with substance abuse and even those that may find themselves in the midst of an overdose situation.
And we want to get that out because we know kids hesitate to call 911. They're afraid of being, reprimanded or put under arrest or persecuted. And if they need to know that saving a life is number one. They would never want to live with the guilt of leaving someone or having someone overdose later and not having enough Narcan or not being with them. And I also want to pass on my information because if parents or teens want to get in touch anonymously, I promise anonymity as well as being able to direct them to a resource or a peer recovery coach. My email directly is tfaatz, F as in Frank, AATZ as in zebra, at bouldercounty.org. And you can also go to my website where I offer support and, so to speak, skills for parents in free classes. and that website is reachoutforchange.com. Thank you.
And we even took a look at the opioid pandemic in Colorado and across the United States as a whole.
The opioid epidemic is nothing new, and fentanyl, unfortunately, is nothing new either. We reached record proportions in the last few years of overdose deaths in the country. It was at about 76,000 per year back in 2019. In Colorado, I can't give you exact numbers, but it was in the thousands. When COVID hit, our attention got diverted to the pandemic, of course, because that was rapidly affecting all of us. And the epidemic of overdose deaths was, in a way, forgotten and swept under the rug. Unfortunately, that has not helped the situation, as we are seeing a tremendous increase in overdoses and overdose deaths in this country and in Colorado since COVID. And it has become an even greater concern, and the epidemic is not going away, and it has not lessened. Last year, over 80,000 people died of overdose deaths in the United States. Denver has seen a 282% increase in fentanyl overdoses alone, and Boulder County about 150% increase. Now remember, you can't say that that means 150 people or more died. It's just from what the numbers were. So you have to take that, literally and look at the numbers, but it is a huge increase. And it shows that we need to really spin back and address this problem, which I believe we're starting to do again. And that is the only good news, but it is the silver lining here.
Thanks, Trina, and we're glad there is a silver lining, albeit small compared to this drug's impact on our nation.
To the news desk.
Brightwood Music in Nederland has all your favorite stringed and fretted instruments, as well as some brass and woodwinds, percussion, and more. The store is conveniently located at 20 East Lakeview Drive, Unit 109. When you buy from Brightwood, it comes professionally set up by a luthier with over 40 years' experience. They also offer in-house repairs on stringed instruments. From restring to refret to rebuild, they've got you covered. Brightwood Music is family-owned and operated.
The store is open weekly, Wednesday through Sunday, so stop by, try something out, stay and play a while. If you're more comfortable with a socially distant appointment, just call 303-258-8863. You can also visit at Brightwood Music on Facebook for regular updates.
Check to see if you qualify for Energy Outreach Colorado. You may be available for a bill reduction on what you pay currently. There are several programs available to recipients of Social Security income, including SNAP, known as food stamps, or Social Security disability income. Low-income energy assistance, free weatherization, free insulation, air sealing, storm windows, furnace repair, and LED lighting is also available.
If you're paying 30% of your income for utilities, you probably are eligible for help. So far, it appears that 13 Nederland residents are eligible, but more may qualify. The Nederland Board of Trustees and Sustainability Advisory Board are also investigating ways to get discounted solar panels and grants for low-income and middle-income Nederland residents. Stay tuned, and you can find out more at energyoutreachcolorado.org.
The Nederland Community Library will present its monthly book talk at 7 p.m. February 25th. This edition features George Blevins. Attendees will have an opportunity to chat with George, who is harder to find these days as he's holed up in his Gilpin County home.
Visitors can ask him questions about his cartoons, his memories of Nederland from decades ago, his experience as a freedom rider in the 60s, and where the Nedhead term and guy came from. To participate in this Zoom hangout with George, email JanetteTaylor.ncl@gmail.com, and that is JANETTE Taylor.ncl@gmail.com.
Free COVID tests are available at the Nederland Community Center every Thursday from 4 to 6 p.m. No appointment or ID is required.
Boulder County is currently vaccinating moderate-risk healthcare workers, other frontline workers, and those aged 65 years or older. For information on vaccinations or to sign up to be notified when and where to get the COVID vaccine, you can go to bouldercounty.org.
The Gilpin County Central Committee GOP meeting is set for Thursday, March 4th at 7 p.m. It'll be held at Washington Hall, a.k.a. the Gilpin County Arts Association, at 117 Eureka Street in Central City.
Enter the Gilpin County Arts Association's 74th Annual Juried Art Show. Email callforentry.org to enter. The deadline for entry is April 19th, 2021. Community Champion nomination forms are now available at surveymonkey.com/r/Peak Community Champions. Forms are due by February 28th, 2021, with your community champions featured in a March edition of the Mountaineer newspaper.
Categories to be recognized include Outstanding Youth, Best Nonprofit, Educational Excellence, Volunteer of the Year, Government Paid Employee, Government Volunteer, and Lifetime Achievement.
In March, these local heroes will be honored with a beautiful certificate and a gift card for dinner at a local restaurant, and that will be dine-in or take-out.
The returning Community Champion celebration will recognize your neighbor, your friend, your mentor, even your relative who has done good work for everyone. Current sponsors are the Peak to Peak Healthy Communities Project and the Mountaineer newspaper. For additional information on how to nominate, simply check out the Mountaineer website.
Wednesday, February 3rd, Josh Hall and his dog Happy went missing from a hike on Devil's Thumb Lake Trail via Hesse Trailhead in Nederland. On Thursday, February 11th, Happy was miraculously found alive, but Josh is still missing. The family is asking for your help.
You can find a picture of Josh on the Mountaineer website. If you're in the Peak to Peak region of Boulder County and surrounding areas, keep an eye out for any signs of Josh. For tips or critical information, contact Boulder County Dispatch at 303-441-4444. And now we turn to Dango Rose, our correspondent and personality. Instead of Sam Birchfield this week, we're sticking to something a bit more local. Take it away, Dango.
All right, this is Dango Rose with the Mountaineer Everybody's Listening podcast. Today, my guest is Michael Sivcovich of the Nederland Public Library. Did I pronounce your name right there?
Yeah, Sivcovich, you nailed it.
Nailed it. Mike, what's your role over there at the library?
So I'm the patron services supervisor. I basically oversee a great deal of the programming for patrons. I also host a lot of the youth and children's programming there. Did a lot of after school stuff, just kind of special events for first day school parties and, summer reading program and all that stuff. So
yeah, and I guess doing all that, coordinating events and everything, programs, I should say, it's changed a lot over the past. Mm-hmm. How are you and your team keeping up with the changes over there?
We're doing a Zoom interview. We have tried to kind of stay up on some Zoom events. And while, they're successful in their own way, it's definitely tricky to kind of keep that interpersonal relationship more meaningful when, you're looking at 20 people on a Zoom screen. But we did recently just celebrate our 20th anniversary, and it happened to fall right when Boulder County Health lowered the risk level. And so we were able to do an outside event, a masked outside event. It was really fun. Sit and talk to patrons in person again. And really, I think, got us all excited about, kind of getting back to normal.
What was it like actually being able to talk one-on-one with some patrons?
I would say the biggest thing that I noticed is how much people are really craving being out and doing things. Definitely, we had a hot chocolate bar that the kids took advantage of, and it was really fun watching everybody kind of just sit back and for a day, even though we're still masked and trying to maintain all the social distancing recommendations, just kind of sit and chat and be a community again, instead of having to keep up to date on how people are feeling and what they're doing through social media, or catching up and trying our best to have conversations via Zoom. We could just kind of sit there and chat. Patrons saw other patrons that they hadn't seen for a while. I mean, it was really great. I'm hoping it's a good sign of things to come.
Yeah, and these connections are meaningful too, because we've been able to maintain our closest connections, I would say, family, partners, stuff like that. But it's the day-to-day interactions with people in the community that really notice that we begin to miss them. The people that you see at the store more often, or at the library, or at the pub. It's these sort of interactions that make up a fabric of our life that is almost like we don't even realize it's missing till it's gone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've definitely think that as we start easing back in to some more familiar looking, not just programming at the library, but just events around town and other organizations and other businesses, it'll kind of rekindle a lot of those relationships that were more periphery at the get-go. They kind of become a little bit more special and a little bit more, it's almost like you're rediscovering your community and the folks that make it up.
Yeah, that's a super cool way to look at it. And so Mike, you're a musician yourself. You came to Nederland. Did you have an upright bass in your car when you came to Nederland?
Yeah, we had a U-Haul box truck, and we trailered the car, and I just basically filled the car up with my instruments.
Yeah,
kept them nice and safe.
that's great. Share similarity in that. I remember arriving in Nederland with an upright bass in the back of my Isuzu Trooper. And that upright bass was one that I sort of ended up with from my high school in the Midwest in Chicago in the late 90s. And then that bass ended up finding its way to Vince Herman and Colin. And it became a staple at the jam sessions.
Yeah.
It must be. That's what I love about upright basses. They can just take a licking, man.
They can, and I'm pretty sure Colin still has that bass.
That's amazing. Like the fingerboard's fallen off several times. Like it's been put together with duct tape. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
That's a little bit of a segue there. Thinking about like Brightwood music in town. We were talking about how library services are sort of changing, pandemic aside, and just what people are needing from libraries nowadays. And I remember you and I talking about like small business support and stuff like that as programs through the libraries. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Our director, Electra Greer, and I participated in they were calling it, I think, business services librarianship. There's this organization that was basically, they called it a pitch competition. And it was for libraries that were engaged in supporting small businesses in their community. And we ended up winning a small grant to kind of help fund our efforts to support small businesses. And it's kind of one of those things where I think it's taken a little bit of time to kind of get the ball rolling on it. We have we record a lot of story times for the kids, and we've been doing a lot of songs from the stacks and other music programs. But yeah, we're excited to get out there and really listen and understand the needs of businesses in our community and support them in ways that I don't think they would have thought a library would have supported them in the past. And we have a very talented staff. Charlie Westernick is kind of our AV guy. He's really talented as far as taking making videos and editing them to a point where they look really professional. I think that's something that, like I said, businesses may not have considered that their local library can provide those services. They may have looked to an advertising company or some other production company for that. It's not only can it be done from a much more affordable price through the library, but it's also with people from the community who not just will listen to those businesses' needs, but also kind of understand who makes up the community, who we're marketing it to, make sure that, everybody kind of gets a good idea of what those businesses can offer them that they may not have considered. When you mention Brightwood Music, I believe in Boulder County, it's down to just Brightwood and Wood Songs, maybe one or two other stores in the entire county. One of the things that I think people forget when shopping for an instrument or going for lessons is that if you buy an instrument online, you just get the instrument and you're on your own. In the meantime, I've bought instruments at Brightwood Music, and Doug is there week in and week out, and he helps me troubleshoot problems. He helps me make upgrades, things that I couldn't possibly do on my own. He's happy to do it. And it's just one of those things where I don't know. I just hope that people can learn about the benefits of supporting. You're not just supporting local businesses, and you're not just supporting your local economy, but you're supporting your own path and your own goals. Having someone in your corner that will be there every time for you.
Thank you, Dango. And be sure to check the library for more information.
For our final story this week, we head to a brand new business in Nederland owned and operated by Josh Pepper.
I'm Josh Pepper. I'm an artist and a horticulturist that just opened a store in town with plants and art right next to Covered Wagon. Yep, right downtown. The place with there's like a little alley between the Covered Wagon and this place, and it's got a little waterfall in it and a bunch of lights. It's not easy to miss. I wasn't always an artist. I kind of started my adulthood doing medical stuff. I was in the Navy. I'm a corpsman. Ended up getting out of the Navy, lost my leg to cancer in 2000, I think it was 12. And I decided one day I was hanging out with some friends who are artists, and I decided to pick up a paintbrush and paint. Didn't really stop. It kind of worked out really well. I just kept doing it. And then now, I guess for the past 2 years, I was there's a little studio space up above the shop. I was renting that for a couple of years and painting and stuff up there. While I was doing that, I decided to go to school for horticulture and business management. Started growing all kinds of fun plants. A couple of years ago, I lived in Milton, up at a place called the Drogi Dome. It's up across from Taggart in Colorado Sierra. It was a big biodome, and it had this giant atrium. Like half of it was a house, the other half was an atrium, and perfect place to grow plants. So I just started growing a bunch of everything really, vegetables, succulents, trees. Anything I could, and if something died, I would just go replace it. So I just got really into that. But I moved out of that a couple years ago, and I was kind of looking for a place to pull off some cool plant growing, and basically ended up here at the shop.
So this is a combination of an art studio, succulent building station, plant wholesaler on a smaller mom-and-pop scale, and a home farmer's dream. Pepper also focuses on bonsai care and sales.
It's just painting, acrylic usually. I don't mess around with too much oil paint because it's I don't know, I like how it dries really fast, and I cover up mistakes real quick. Kind of psychedelic, I guess. Maybe it's really bright colors, animals. Now I'm actually trying to describe what I paint. It's kind of hard. Slightly visionary, slightly, stained glass looking.
Kind of surreal?
Yeah, definitely surreal. Absolutely surreal. A lot of dots in there. They use a lot of dots to make things look like it's moving. It had a little observation room at the very top of the dome with windows on 4 sides, and when it was snowing, it was like you're in a spaceship. The snow is like you're driving at night with your headlights on in a snowstorm, and you can see the wind just moving right at you, and outside, it was completely rigid. Sometimes in the winter, the snow would fall off the side of the dome and the big window that provide all the light to the plants so they get covered with snow and have that cool blue glacier look to it. And, I was doing a lot of art then, too. I had an easel on every deck. I can go to a 3rd level and down the garden and paint, go down in the garden and paint, whatever. It was pretty cool. It was definitely a motivating place to be when you're trying to make cool art.
He is a Navy veteran and was an EMT, but wanted to get away from the intense lifestyle it requires.
I've seen enough. I think it's safe to say that my job's kind of done with that. It's a lot of emotional weight and stress that I'm getting old. I'm 42, not 43. I don't remember how old I am. But it's at that age where I could make a choice to keep going with that. And after being in the hospital and having so many surgeries and losing a leg, I kind of get anxiety being around hospitals. And I wasn't as motivated to do it as I was when I was younger, that's for sure.
Look out for local artists to be featured and more. And here's how the whole project went the first week it opened.
Yeah, it's been about a week. I think this is the fifth day or sixth day open. I was kind of hoping just waiting to open up to see how things would flow before we made any decisions about what we're going to offer and, how easy it's going to be, like how to distribute the workload. We have to take care of all these plants, and we probably have like 500 plants in here, and they're all different, and there's really a lot to deal with. But what we're doing now is bonsai. The bonsai stuff is a little bit higher price in, so that's kind of just more, I just like doing that part. We sell house plants, things like, crotons and pothos, just your typical spread of house plants that are easy to take care of. Succulents, we do succulent arrangements. That's a good seller where it has been. Like things are flying off the shelf right now, so now we're trying to, figure out how to stock everything back up really fast. And I'm already running through my back stock on some of this stuff, but what we're going to offer, though, is we're going to try to be like a little plant doctor place. So, like, say your plant's not doing too well at your house or you're having a problem with one of the plants you bought here, and more than likely due to the humidity levels up here and where you put it. Just bring it back in and we can help you work through it. But we're going to do bonsai workshops, basically taking nursery stock from Home Depot or any of these places that have, little $10 juniper plants or boxwoods, and we're going to set up a whole thing out back here and get a bunch of people together and cut on them and wire them up and shape them. We're also going to do a lot of art. This is the cool part. So right now, Lindsay Foy is the featured artist. She has all the paintings on the wall when you look in the window. It's going to rotate, much like Salto did, I guess. Try to do like a month-long showing, whoever's in here. If you have any art that you want to show, give me a call. So it's area code 573-692-5560. And Apex Art Shop on Facebook and Instagram. You can go there and message us. We're going to be doing the whole online stores and the drop ship from distributors that we've picked out here pretty soon. We're working on that right now. We're going to have a lot of different programs and stuff. We're thinking about doing a fairy garden or kind of like a pot your own plant thing this summer where, out here in the garden outside, it's going to be like a little thing you can go up to and you could take your plant and your substrate and your pot and everything and plant things yourself. We're going to try to get everybody's hands on deck over here. So,
in the future, Josh wants to hold plant-specific classes for the aspiring horticulturist.
If I knew a place like this existed, really, I would have probably tried to get a job there just because it's so much fun. The possibilities are really endless. We have a lot of friends who do a lot of irrigation stuff, so we're going to do irrigation workshops and set up irrigation displays. Look at these different types of irrigation, like try to do some aquaponics. We're not really selling any equipment as of now. I'm planning on it. This stuff I've been using at different gardens. It's a rainbird thing. It's like an octobubbler, basically. It looks like a jellyfish, has like 8 lines coming out of it, and each one of these lines you can split, and it goes to the plant. You put on a pump, and it pumps the water out, and it's a drip system, but it's really simple, and it's easy to put up in your house, whatever you have, like a bunch of house plants in your kitchen or something, where you try to kind of design really cool irrigation systems that you can't really see. Part of the project that we're working on now is the actual showroom in here. There's going to be a series of terrace tables and like in the shape of like a pyramid. And then underneath it's going to be a PVC pipe with holes drilled through it and wicks in the plant. So we just press a button every few days and fill up the PVC and the plants drink as they need and then turn it off. And you won't be able to see it, but you won't be able to see any of it.
Stop in to see the store and lend your own gardening experiences about plants that grow well in the area.
It's an ongoing thing, we're learning as we go, COVID and everything and state of affairs with everyone, I guess. We're trying to just make sure we have stock and keep everything going and just try to make it through the winter. And I think we're doing pretty well with that. I think everything's looking all right. We'll put out flyers for the workshop and classes we're going to have, terrarium building classes, things like that.
Thank you, Josh. And we look forward to how the shop progresses and grows itself.
And that's all for this week's episode of the Mountaineer Podcast.
Pick up this week's edition of The Mountaineer in print.
Go online to www.themtnear.com to catch up on more local news. I'm Art Nevitalis.
And I'm Cynthia Davis. Until next time, thank you for listening.
And that's it for our show. Subscribe online to get more access to more news, weekly updates to our community calendar, and a link to our YouTube channel by visiting themountaineer.com. Be sure to use the coupon code PODCAST when subscribing for a 10% discount, only available to our listeners. If you are in the local Peak to Peak area, be sure to pick up a print edition of The Mountaineer at a local business. I'm Dango Rose. Thank you for listening.